And away we go. Let's see. Moen wasn't here, so I started this thing. He's come on. I'm going to see him in a minute. Welcome to everybody. This is another big edition of the Big Freaking Friday Show on the College Football Mafia Network. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown. And I don't know what Moen's doing, but he's down there. I can see him. He just hasn't. There he is.
I'm
Good
here.
to see you. How you doing?
Doing okay. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. I've actually felt pretty good today. Tried to stay up on the news, staying up to date on everything that's going on. How anything come to mind as we look into this uh, really exciting weekend? I think there's some big games,
Yeah, there's some huge games.
and I'm not.
Penn
Sorry,
State.
go ahead.
Ohio State, Penn State kicks off at noon.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We'll jump into that. Let's get a little business done here, and then we'll jump right into that game because that's obviously the biggest game of the weekend. There's no doubt about it. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Make sure you're following us all on Twitter. Ute isn't here tonight. He's got family commitments, but wanted everybody to know, he appreciates everything you do for us, and we do too. Thanks to all the members that have been with us for a long time. And if you're new to the channel, watching on X, please consider jumping over on YouTube and at least hitting that subscribe button, helping us push towards that 5,000 subscriber number. We're working on that and getting closer every day. And it's Friday. There's a lot of competing things. Boise State plays UNLV tonight. Sorry, Boise State plays San Diego State tonight. Has a chance to win the Mountain West Conference. I don't know, Moen. Do you think that's a walk away for Boise State?
Yeah, I think UNLV is probably the toughest team they've faced so far this year, and they got away from that one. I see them winning out. So,
how much of that had to do with their quarterback basically not getting a $100,000 check and walking away? That had to be disruptive for UNLV.
no, it was disruptive, but that guy who stepped in, I mean, he's been doing a very good job at QB. So, I think they held Genty to like 136. It's
right.
Low.
They did.
So I mean, they held up against the run.
Right.
They did everything they could do. They just didn't quite close the deal, as it were.
San Diego State's going to sell out. They're going to put 9 guys in the box. They're going to make Boise State beat them over the top, and it probably won't work. But you never know. Any given weekend, right? That's the way it works.
Yeah.
I like both our hats. Very good representations for the schools that we support. I think that's pretty cool. As we look into this weekend, and we'll get to picks in a little bit, but the thing I wanted to ask about most, and I'm going to bring this right up. We're going to jump right into this because I find it fascinating. Make sure I get the right one. So Big Noon for Fox is going to be in College Station. Sorry.
Happy Valley.
Happy Valley, thank you. College Station B in Texas A&M. Happy Valley, and right behind him, 200 feet. And I'm going to share this screen because I find this fascinating. This was shared by Twist and Hook on Twitter, one of the guys I follow. Really, really good guy to follow if you come across him. But this is the distance between College Game Day and Fox Noon. It's just a little over 200 feet, the difference between those two. And Big Noon is being boycotted. Can you put some give everybody understanding why this Big Noon thing is a concern at all?
As far as the boycott, I don't think you're going to have any issues. You're going to have 150,000 people packed in there tomorrow.
Right.
There's going to be enough room to go to both shows. So I don't think either one of them is going to hurt for an audience. I think what you're trying to say earlier, the name of the town Penn State sits in is State College, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Happy Valley.
The area it sits in is Happy Valley.
That's right. And I've never been to either. So that's why it makes things a little bit confusing for me, not being a local. So I appreciate that additional insight. I see Greg Flugar has joined the chat. Greg, we're missing you tonight. If you want to join us, Moen can send you the link to join. You're welcome to join us for a few minutes if you can talk. We realize you usually mixed on Fridays. I think you just ended a show as well. Moen, you mind sending him the link in case he wants to join us?
I'll send him the link in case he wants to.
All right, no big deal. Other than that, guys, it's going to be a great weekend. Great games we're going to be talking about, SEC big games. Big 12 continues to be that conference that is trying to fight for that relevance. We continue to talk about that every week. The Big 10 and the SEC leading the charge. But it's a big weekend, and we definitely we're gonna talk about those biggest games. Let's do quick shout outs before we get any further, just so I don't lose track and lose the thread of who's here early. First guy in the house is Ryan Willie. Continues to lead the charge and be in here the most. We're not keeping track of who's ever been here the most, the longest. We've got several that compete, but Ryan's certainly one of those. He says, "Hi, College Football Mafia," and follows it up by saying, "If the Badgers lose to Iowa, I'll blame Greg the Cooler for picking them." I wasn't there. I didn't have a chance to listen to Greg's show, but every time he picks, there's concern that he definitely puts the coolerism on those schools. Do you think there's any concern with Wisconsin losing to Iowa this weekend?
Well, we didn't have that on our pick sheet, but on my other pick, I took Iowa.
Did you?
And I took Iowa because they've got a running quarterback now, and the Penn State quarterback they played in the second half last week just ran all over Wisconsin. That
Okay.
gives me cause for concern.
Very fair. I think that's a good assessment. AMAC is next, saying howdy y'all. Good to see you here, AMAC. Illini Ted, always representing the Big Ten. Hey, College Football Mafia, glad Greg went homer pick with the Gophers. Gives my Illini a better chance. Oh boy, the Big Ten, so fun. Daniel Gygax, one of our contributors, a valued member of the tribe and also a member of the Mafia family, says hi everyone. Good to have you here, Daniel. Says hi Nate. I think he's talking to me. Earl Carr says, "Sup, brothers? Good to see you, Earl. We're off this weekend. If you don't already have Holy War tickets, you got to get them. I know they're expensive. I'm not going to tell everybody how much I paid for mine, but we want to blue out that stadium and really make Utah feel bad, if possible. I'm all for that." Says, "Hey, Moen, go Buckeyes." There you go, Moen. You got some support.
There you go.
Greg does sign in and says, "Hey, Buckeyes QB Howard needs to be unleashed." Yeah,
Definitely.
I don't know. Is Ohio State going to go off finally? I'm waiting for one game for them just to beat down somebody.
Our offensive, when we lost our left tackle, and we lost our backup left tackle.
Oh, brother.
Ryan Day was just on the local news here saying they've got it figured out. So,
okay.
I got my fingers crossed they do, because if they don't, it's going to be a long day.
So in a little bit, I'm going to share. I came across this article just as I was preparing for the show. It says it's the 12-team college playoff, ESPN, based on the strength of record, the teams that they've actually beat. That'll be really interesting. I think that'll be something that you'll find interesting because we haven't talked about it. Becky Go Huskies, another contributor, says Washington is bad weather tomorrow. In bad weather. I don't know. Who does Washington play tomorrow? Remind me.
USC.
Oh gosh. USC's bad. Are they in Washington? Do you know that?
Listen, if it's bad weather, I wouldn't expect it to be LA.
Yeah, I don't know. It does get it every once in a while. I hope they thump them. I picked them, and whatever that other thing is we do, I picked Washington to beat USC, so I think they're at home. Greg says, "Beautiful, I will join." So that's awesome. Moen, if you send him the link. Greg, go ahead and join us anytime. Just click that link.
I sent him the link.
All right. Maybe you did it wrong. I don't know. Greg, here. I'll just post it here. Greg, just click the link in the comment section right now. I just posted it. We'll bring you on. All right. Antoine Codes checking in saying, "Hey, y'all, another valuable member of the Mafia family." Let's see. Tony Lawson says, "Illini Ted, say it isn't so." Wisconsin versus Illinois versus Minnesota versus Iowa. And you get those things going in the Big Ten. I really appreciate all those rivalries. Daniel Gygax says, "Becky, from April to September, the area has great weather. Then, well, hey, look, California is California. Washington at home is the best, in my opinion. Washington is at home. Law rain today, 45 tomorrow at kickoff. That's great weather for Washington. That's all I can say. All right, Greg. We are going to move to our next topic. I think we've gone through all the comments. It's pretty fantastic. We got a super chat from Earl for $2. Thank you, Earl. I appreciate that. Can we give him a sound of their Moen?
Yeah, I got to pull up the soundboard.
Okay, that'd be great. Moen prediction for you: Penn State 21, Ohio State 35. You would be happy with that, wouldn't you?
Oh, I'd be ecstatic with that. But
Yeah, that's what I think so too.
Let's wait for the pick segment, guys.
All right. We're not getting ahead of ourselves too much. All right, let's see here. So I'm going to run through a couple of news items as we wait for Greg. There he is. How are you doing, Greg?
Fantastic. I am so excited for week 10 of college football. I want to see, I know I'm not going to interrupt. You guys, I just want to see Will Howard unleashed. Right, Moen? Unleash him. Let's go. Let's go.
If they haven't got that left side of the line figured out, Greg, they're going to have to.
Just keep you running back, help him block a little bit on the left side, but you got to let it rip, man. Throw the ball downfield. The Buckeyes got all that talent. Let it work. Let it cook, as you guys say.
Let it cook.
College football mafia.
Yes, we do say let it cook. There's a sounder prompt, Moen, if you can find it. Let me get to a couple more comments here. Let's see. Harry Austin, member, says, afternoon all. We have a $10 super chat from Mark Bowman. Good to have you here, Mark. Also a valuable member of the Mafia family, says to alleviate OSU's depth problem at tackle, they should play 2 tight ends like Iowa. Well,
we don't have big tight ends at Ohio State. We've got athletic tight ends. So.
Oh, geez. But here we go.
Here's one. I've got to let him cook on this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Let him cook.
All right, thank you.
Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let
him cook. That's right. Jeff Fuller checking in. Good to see you, Jeff. Sup, college football mafiosos. Good to have you here, Jeff. Always love to have you in the house. It's a good weekend. It's a bye weekend for Utah and BYU. Holy War is next week. We'll be talking about that all next week. All right, Greg. I haven't seen you for a minute. First of all, you haven't seen my scar. Do you see this scar?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've been watching you.
Okay, all right.
I watch you guys. You guys do an incredible job, and yeah, it's.
Well, we're not as pretty as you are, as you said on Twitter. You know, you're the prettiest. Show us but I want to see give us your sweater. Yeah, there you go. That's what I wanted to see. Do you not have a hat like going
the only colors that matter. These colors don't run. Well, they don't pass, but no, yes.
Okay. All right. You know, at the end of the day, you should wear a hat too. You would look good in a hat.
I got too big of a head.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Physically and in other ways.
I understand. Becky Go Huskies $1.99 super chat says, "How about those Gophers?"
How about them? Big game.
So tell us a little bit about Minnesota. How are they doing this year?
They're doing. They've turned the corner. They're playing really good right now. It's very unusual because Minnesota has a sort of a balanced attack on offense for the first time since at least 2019. So it's been fun to watch Max Brosmere. Yeah, he can play at this level. It took him a while, but now he's cooking. So I think it's going to be a good game tomorrow. I expect the Gophers to beat the Fighting Illini. I expect the Gophers to beat Rutgers, and then it's going to line up for Penn State to come into Minneapolis. That's what we're hoping for. Hopefully we win these next 2 games and we get Penn State here after the Buckeyes have beat them up. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm pretty. We're pretty excited here in Minnesota. It definitely has turned the corner. Corey Purich, the true freshman that me and Moen talked about in the offseason, the highest graded safety in the country.
Wow!
Not just true freshman, but he'll be in the NFL in a couple years from now, and he's a beast. So it's been fun. It's been fun. Usually we lose in a boring fashion, but this year it's been fun. So,
how much do you regret that first game?
I regret it, but again, it's just too bad we had to play a power conference team that first. It was Max Brosmere first game,
right?
Our great running back was hurt. He didn't play. Of course, he was ready to play the week after. So, and we missed a couple of field goals, one real short. It's just, But we did get blown out by Iowa in the second half, and we got blown out by Michigan in the first half. So we had 2 bad halves of play. But other than that, we're playing pretty good. I think we're favored at Champaign tomorrow. So
Really?
Yeah.
Against Illinois? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I think
Wow.
we're humming right now. So hopefully, if we beat Illinois, and we should be able to beat Rutgers, then that Penn State game is going to be a doozy. The last big 2019 Penn State came to Minneapolis, and we were both 8-0 at the time, and we beat Penn State 31-26. Since then, they played us and they whooped us. So we're looking at this. We'll see what happens with Penn State and Ohio State, but we're looking to be 5-2 in the Big Ten when Penn State comes. Can we get there? I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow.
That would be remarkable.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. I think that would be really, really good.
I'm really excited for the Buckeyes Nittany Lions game, though. There's so many good football players going to be on the football field tomorrow, and I just think the Buckeyes are going to wake up. I think they're going to wake up. I know there are problems. Moen knows it better than anybody. He knows that team inside and out, but man, there's just so much talent on that team. They're going to unleash, I think.
And I don't know. We'll ask your opinion when we go through the picks. Earl Carr for $5 gives us another super chat. Bomber was sliced and diced, literally. Glad to see you doing better, brother. Thank you very much, Earl. I appreciate it. All right. Let's see here. Before we do picks, let me because I want, especially since Greg here, it's kind of really good timing. So first, you guys saw this thing from the SEC. Greg Sankey finally saying no fake injuries, we're going to fine you on. How does this actually get enforced? Did you guys read through this? Did you have time to see this, Greg, before your show?
Yeah, I did. And I don't know. I don't know if that problem has a solution. I don't know how to solve it.
My solution is if you go out for any injury, you're out for the possession. That's my suggestion, which nobody will follow. Here's the link in case anybody wants to reach it. How do you enforce that? What's an injury, what's not? I don't know. But faking is as bad as the lack of injury reports in the different conferences. I think that's another problem that needs to be solved.
What conferences don't have injury reports?
The Big 12 doesn't.
Okay.
And the Pac-12 didn't used to.
Okay.
And you know how I know that is because Utah exploits it. That's the problem with everything that Kyle Whittingham does is he's cloak and dagger, right?
The Big Ten started last year, correct, Moen?
Yeah, but it's I think it's within 24 hours.
Okay.
It's not
okay.
Yeah, it's not extended. Like when Tuesday's betting lines come out, they do not have injury status yet. They just day-to-day questionable.
The deadline is like 2 hours before the game, though, right?
I think it's within 24 hours.
Okay. See, I still think that's late. That to me is still late. For example, Kyle Whittingham just reported that his third backup quarterback had season-ending surgery like weeks and weeks ago and didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Everybody was wondering why he hadn't been playing, and the reason was he was on the DL and he didn't tell anybody. So some of that stuff, I think there has to be transparency, especially as more stuff gets betted on, doesn't it?
Yes. 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 I think eventually we're going to get there.
Okay. One unifying power. We need the czar, right? For all of college football. That's never going to happen. Another thing, news thing. Let's see if I can remember. Nope, that's not it. So it was Ross Dillinger article. That might have been. Oh, this is the last one. And I found this just as I was going through. And you guys will find this fun. The ESPN just published their 12-team college football strength of resume. I found this interesting because we'll go through these in order, and you guys tell me where we're wrong. Georgia's first. This is based on current records, okay? Miami's second.
Okay.
BYU is third. And they have Oregon fourth.
What is this based on?
It's the strength of record, strength of resume.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And then after that, they have Penn State, and then Texas A&M, Tennessee, and Indiana, actually. Let's see, Indiana, and then, wait, is that it? No, there's 2 more. Oh, well, I can't remember the other 2, but I just found that interesting that they actually would have those sort of flipped around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of, what do you guys think about that? Do you think that's a real thing? Do you think the strength of resume is going to, because nobody knows what this new calculation is going to be for the playoff, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're going to probably have a few surprises Tuesday night. I don't know. That's one metric, right? But then they're going to talk about their eye, what they see with their eyes, whatever.
Yeah.
I think Oregon's going to be number 1, but and Georgia's probably going to be number 2.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens with Penn State and Ohio State. Other than that, man, I don't know. I don't know, like BYU and Iowa State. Now, BYU don't play this week. Iowa State plays Texas Tech.
Right.
Let's say Iowa State beats Texas Tech by the 14 points. Let's just pretend, because that's the spread. Who's ahead of who? BYU ahead of Iowa State? Iowa State ahead of BYU? I don't know. What you guys
Probably a
think?
toss-up, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Moen?
This is all going to sort itself out.
Yeah.
But
Nice to you being
I have some bad news for Big 12 folks. The Big 10 and SEC, even if one of those teams has one more loss than a Big 12 team, they're going to get extra consideration.
Yeah, probably. I will say this. This is the only caveat I would say. If the ACC or the Big 12 have 2 teams that either go in undefeated in conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or only 1 loss, so you end up with a 12-1 and a 12-1 coming out of the Big 12, and you have an 11-2 and 12-1 coming out of the ACC. How do you keep those 4 schools out? And you put in a 3-loss, I don't care who it is.
I don't think it's I don't know if I don't think a 3-loss team's going to get in. Let's say Clemson, Miami, and SMU all run the table. Okay,
yes.
All 3 of them. And then you got Miami and Clemson in the championship game. Right now, SMU is behind when it comes to conference opponents
Right.
Whatever.
Right. They lose the tiebreaker.
That number 5 on the tiebreaker. They're a little behind, although they're going to catch up if they beat Pittsburgh.
Yep.
So what if SMU goes 11-1? You're not. I'm probably being naive. I'm probably lean too much for David versus Goliath. But how do you keep an 11-1 SMU out and bring a 9-3
Alabama?
Yeah, because Alabama, they haven't played great, and
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think a 3-team loss is going to get in, but a 10-2 Ohio State.
Yeah, they get in. I defer to that.
Now Notre Dame's an interesting one because one of their 2 if they lose again, which they might not, if they don't lose again, they got a shot to have a home game in that first round still. But if they lose again, they're a 2-loss team, but one of those losses with Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
They're not getting ahead of a BYU at
12-1. I agree.
or 12, whatever, or whoever loses, they're not getting ahead of an Iowa State or a BYU with the 1 loss.
Shouldn't Notre Dame be penalized, guys? At
Yes.
the end of the day, they play one less game. They do not have to play a championship game, and they have a weak schedule. Shouldn't they be? I know I'm laughing, right?
No, I'm laughing at Mon, not you.
I think they should just be penalized straight out. I don't think there needs to be a reason.
I shouldn't have said that, Mon.
You know what though? I'm afraid I'm going to get Moen upset here, but Notre Dame's been playing really good football. Riley Leonard is really whatever his struggles were at the beginning of the season, he don't have it right now. They're rocking and rolling. Sorry, Moen. So I'm just
Listen, I think their toughest opponent left is Army.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So I'm just looking at their schedule really quick, just so I can see who they play next. They have. Oh wait, this is next year. Who do they? Is Army their last? They don't play
November
Clemson.
23rd. They played Army,
And that's it though. They don't play Miami. They don't play Clemson. They don't play.
They play USC, and I think they play them at the Coliseum.
Oh, that good. Well,
I think. Someone check on that. I think they play USC at the Coliseum, and USC is they can beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame's overrated. Always is.
They're playing good now, though. I don't know.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Losing or if what's the old saying? If you're gonna lose early, right?
Yeah,
that recency bias is real.
It doesn't help that Northern Illinois has went into the MAC and has not looked like world beaters.
Yes. Yep.
I'll be fascinated what this 12-team thing comes out on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Especially when BYU and Iowa State. No, Iowa State plays this week, but BYU is off. Right? So I don't know if you know this guy. We've got a guest coming on at the end of the show. I don't know if you know him at all. Let me make sure I get his. It's rankings right now. Have you ever seen his stuff on Twitter? He does the AI, does the calculations to figure out what the next week's rankings are going to be.
Okay.
He's going to be on the show. I don't know if you have time later. If you're going to be, you can stick around as long as you want.
Yeah, I'll stick around.
Okay, you're going to like his stuff.
Your wife's watching some romantic movie on Netflix.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you have the time. Thanks for being here. All right,
Thanks, Nathan.
I love to anytime, Greg. You have an open invite anytime. I'm always going to ask you. You might not want me to, but I'm always going to ask you. Ricky Tungate, $10 super chat, also a member. Thank you very much, Ricky. Says, love the show, Greg. Fits so well with the show. So, Greg, you're here. Look at this. Everybody loves you.
Let's give him a little sounder here first.
Go ahead. Yeah, let's get it. Let me put that back.
Oh.
That's my favorite one. Since we don't have the real old Keith Jackson O'Nelly, that's the one I want.
I've got Keith Jackson O'Nelly on here,
but it's not. It doesn't sound good.
Listen, you try and find a clean sounder of Keith Jackson saying "Whoa Nelly."
Whoa Nelly, I love that.
Whoa Nelly.
He was the best, by the way. I don't care who you are.
Absolutely.
Joe Buck, maybe. I mean, there's a few, but in my opinion, Keith Jackson was it. And the Rose Bowl, Keith Jackson. There's nobody that set the stage better.
Granddaddy of them all here in Pasadena, California.
Hasn't been good since. All right, here we go. So here's our picks. We're going to start with the top one, which is the biggie. Ohio State at Penn State. Penn State is getting 3.5. Is that right?
Yes.
And I'm the only one who took Ohio State. So justify your pick, Moen, for Penn State.
Remember, I think it was last week or the week before you took you didn't take BYU because of the points.
I did.
That's the exact reason I did not take Ohio State here.
Okay.
I think the game is close. This game may go to overtime.
Oh.
I think this game is determined by one score, and that score is a field goal.
Okay. What do you think, Greg?
Well, I got Penn State covering. I got Ohio State winning by a field goal, high-scoring game. Will Howard is going to be unleashed. Drew Aller is going to play. Well, at least that's what was reported. And I think both teams are going to be just firing at all cylinders. I think we're going to have a classic high-scoring game. And I got the Buckeyes winning by 3, but Penn State covers.
Okay. So you guys are going chalk. That's really good. I appreciate that. Next one's Oregon at Michigan, and Michigan is getting 15.5. Now, Ute is the only one that took the points here, but I almost did. That is so many points for a Big Ten opponent, but you guys think Oregon's just going to put a beat down on Michigan?
Yeah, no doubt in my mind. I think they're probably going to win this by 24 points.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Greg,
Listen,
do you think
Oregon's got a great Oregon's got a
I-
great defense. Their
I-
defensive backs.
I agree with Moen. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That blows me away. That point spread. Anyway, I took Oregon, but to cover, not 24 points. That's crazy talk. Florida, Georgia. Florida's a bad team. They need a new coach, so I'm not even going to talk about that one. Louisville at Clemson. Louisville, and I took Louisville in the points. I think Clemson's overrated. Let's see here. Rock and Rant took Louisville, but you took Clemson, Moen.
Yeah, and let me tell you why.
I'm here for
Clemson
it.
has had one game where they won and did not cover the spread, and it was due to a garbage time touchdown. Other than
Okay.
that, Clemson has cleared the spread pretty easily all season. So
Yeah.
I think Clemson clears the spread here.
I agree with Moen again. Clemson's they're another team on a roll, man. I think they're going to blow the doors off Louisville.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a bias, I guess. I admit that my picks have bias. I look at who Clemson's beaten. They've beaten nobody. And I have a team here that plays just down the road 10 minutes that has 2 ranked wins and looked really good doing it. So I don't know. Clemson may be really good. I've watched Louisville. The Louisville SMU game was kind of interesting. I don't know. I can't. 10.5 points is a lot of points. Anyway, sorry, 7.5 points. My bad. No, I read it right. 10.5. Pittsburgh SMU is the next one we'll jump into. So I took SMU and the points, giving up. Pitt went to Wild Ute and Becky. Can one of you guys justify a Pitt pick here? Is Pitt good?
I have seen a lot of Pittsburgh football this year. They've got about 4 or 5 guys on that team that can flat out play. They got the Akron receiver, a couple-year transfer from Akron. They get the guy's name, Conte Mumphrey or Conte, whatever. Number 9, the wide receiver at Pittsburgh, really good player. Desmond Reed, really good running back. And then Eli Holstein, he's making plays when they need it the most. I mean, he is just making, like, he'll make that one throw that will win the game for the Panthers, or he'll make that one running, like against West Virginia in the backyard brawl, and he just makes the play when they need to. They got a really good secondary. The one, like, and I've talked about it on my live show, I've got Pittsburgh, but there is this worry among Pittsburgh Panther fans and that there's something wrong with Eli Holstein. Now, it was reported today that Jennings is playing.
Yeah, he was. Yep.
And there's no reports of a Holstein like injury, like he's playing and everything. But early in the week, Pittsburgh Panther fans were like, did he get dirt in his eye at the end of that game last week? Or did he get his bell rung? And of course, the practices are closed and Narduzzi's, so nobody kind of really knows about Holstein. There's been no reports, no national reporters saying, yeah, Holstein's injured, he's not playing. But I know Panther fans have this, I don't know if they're just like feeling
It's like an anxiety,
insecurity, right. Whatever. They're undefeated and they're looking at every little thing that could go wrong. So that's the mystery in that game. But other than that, I would take Pittsburgh plus 7.5. And
Moen?
Other than the only thing being wrong with Holstein is he plays for Pitt. But gosh. Pitt has won ugly this year. I haven't seen a pretty win out of them. The only win that really looked good, they played against Kyle McCord. And Shonsky, I just see you came in here. You've been railing all year about us getting rid of McCord and how he wasn't good enough for Ohio State and all this stuff. That's the Kyle McCord that we got rid of last week.
Yeah.
One who throws 5 interceptions.
That was really bad.
And 3 pick sixes. So,
Yeah.
you know, you got to depend on Kyle McCord to make your team look good. Pitt's looked ugly. They've come back down from some times. Greg's right. They've made some monster plays when they needed them the most. But I think SMU is clicking on all cylinders.
Yes.
I think SMU, they've got them at home. Not that SMU has a home field advantage. We'll see if they even sell this game out. But
it was reported they sold it out.
Okay. So a
If
booster
they
bought
actually show up, that's
a
different.
booster bought a bunch of tickets. We'll see if people actually sit in the seats.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like SMU here.
I think SMU's good. They've improved since BYU beat them. They've only gone from strength to strength. Jennings is the real deal. He's very athletic. And Pitt is another one of those teams I think is overrated. So, again, bomber bias, as Clint Moses likes to say. All right, this is an interesting one. Texas Tech at Iowa State. Iowa State's given 13.5. All of us took Tech. Before I ask Greg your opinion, except for Pickles, took Iowa State. I will say this. This recency bias thing, I think, is real. I think Iowa State right now is starting to lose the PR battle to BYU. BYU's starting to get national coverage, getting interviews all over the place, getting a lot of credit for stuff. People are opening up and saying, wow, they may be back. This is a chance for Iowa State to put a stamp on them still being top of the conference. If they beat down Texas Tech, and they could, if they beat them by 20, 24, I think that could help change that narrative, at least arrest some of the depression that's going on right now, because nobody's talking about Iowa State, and all I've heard about is BYU the last week. So I think this is a big deal. I think this game is a standout game. I took Tech in the points, but I do believe that Iowa State has a chance to just go out there and thump them, just trying to make a point. Greg, do you agree with that?
Let me start by saying this. At the beginning of the year, when a game hadn't been played, I was on College Football Mafia show with Mr. Wild Ute and Moen and Nathan Brown, and I picked Iowa State to come in third place in the Big 12. I got laughed at. I got mocked at. So I'm a big believer in the Cyclones. However, I agree with everything Nathan Brown just said. I'm a little worried about the Cyclones. I think they're slipping and sliding a little bit. I think this is a really important game for them to get back on the beam. I've got Texas Tech Red Raiders covering the 14 points that I got, 13.5 that you got. So I agree with Nathan Brown. I think the Cyclones are going to have to. Morton is playing for Texas Tech. That's been reported. So I think Iowa State's going to have to. I think they're going to have to show us something like a domination game here.
Right.
But I think the Red Raiders are going to cover.
Moen, you obviously picked that. You shaking your head.
Not so fast, Greg. Listen, Iowa State showed their vulnerability.
Fast, Moen. Go ahead.
They showed their vulnerability against UCF. They had to come back.
Yeah, that's true.
They had to come back and win that game. And UCF has been housed by a couple teams this year.
BYU could have beat them by 25 or 30.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that gives me cause for concern. I think Iowa State wins this, but I don't think they cover 13.5 points.
No, I don't either. I got Texas Tech as well.
I think Texas Tech might pull the upset here.
It's going to be closer than I think Iowa State wants, unless, again, they can find that extra gear, kind of like Ohio State needs to find, and go out there and just beat somebody down, right? If they do to Penn State what they have the skill to do, they could beat Penn State by, I think, a lot more than people are thinking. 3.5 points, I think, is crazy. All right. Texas A&M, South Carolina. I'm not sure why Moen picked this one, but everybody took A&M. It's at South Carolina, and it's less than a field goal. Greg, would you give away those points and take those points and take South Carolina?
I took South Carolina.
Oh, you took them with the points or on spec?
I took the points. Yeah,
okay.
The points.
All right.
Having said that, I've got no confidence in my pick. Moen gave me the nickname Greg the Cooler a couple years ago.
Is he the one who came up with that? It's a very good name.
And it's and it's the data will show you that it's the correct name, unfortunately. And again, this year it's Greg the Cooler, and South Carolina is one of the reasons why. No matter what I do with South Carolina, I'm wrong. So I'm going to be wrong in this one as well. I took South Carolina. I don't know, I don't know, this Marcel Reed, the quarterback at Texas A&M, right? He comes in last week. It looked like if there was 16 players on defense, they would not have been able to stop him, right, Moen? That's what it looked like. The guy looked like the next Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M. No one could touch him. So I don't know what's going on. I'm just guessing that maybe he had an incredible high and now he's going to hit an incredible low. South Carolina, I know South Carolina has got some really good defensive linemen. That number 91, I don't know what is, like Highsmith or Heisber or something like that. They got another guy. I think maybe they hit the Marcel Reed a few times, bruise him up. Gamecocks cover. That's all I got.
South Carolina was expected to be better, I think, than they've been this year.
Yeah, they've been doing pretty good. I don't know this Marcel Reed, man. Moen, do you know anything about this cat?
Yeah, I mean, my problem with South Carolina is they play so uneven.
Mm-hmm.
There are games they play where they will look like world beaters, and then there are games they play they're failing to execute. So
hello, Ole Miss.
Yeah, well, Ole Miss has the same issue.
They had the exact same problem.
Ole Miss really only had it in that one game. Ole Miss has come back. By the way, the way I try and pick these, Bomber, is I try and give each conference 2 games.
Oh,
as
that's
much
okay.
as
I'm
possible.
teasing. You know, I'm just teasing.
So Texas A&M, like Greg said, that backup QB went in last week, lit a fire under them. They came back against LSU, a top 10 team. Texas A&M is my team of destiny in the SEC. I think they make the SEC championship. I've said it. They beat Texas this year. Go and play Georgia in the SEC championship game. I like Texas A&M.
All right. Okay. I love the emotion, Moen. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Last one, TCU Baylor. This actually, I think, is going to be a better game than people think. I've been on Baylor since BYU played them, frankly. I think they're 3-0 since BYU played them, something like that, 3-1. I think they're given 3.5 to TCU. I think they'll cover that. I think Baylor's much better than people think. They're not going to win the championship this year. They got off to a really slow start, but I don't see TCU having enough to beat them. Moen, did you take? Let's see. You took Baylor as well. Tell us, Greg, why TCU wins this.
I can't go.
Okay.
I think Dave Aranda basically saves his job. With a win against TCU here. I think that basically secures that, and I got Baylor. Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a second, because the same thing happened at West Virginia, right? Mm-hmm. They were down on Neal, then he wins 10 games or whatever. He comes back. Aranda's going to do the same thing, right? And then next year they're going to want to let him go.
I think it's hard for anybody to let anybody go this year going into the salary cap thing for next year. If any of these coaches have a decent sized buyout, I don't think that. I think the coaching carousel is going to be a short ride this year. I think
interesting. I haven't thought about that before.
Yeah, I think Neil Brown is the canary in the coal mine. I think he's like, if he survives, then I think it's a good measure that the carousel ride is going to be a short one. If he loses his job, then maybe there's a little bit more action on the carousel. But I did a live show yesterday where I read a little bit of West Virginia 247 beat writer, and they're talking about how, West Virginia, he says, look, I don't think West Virginia is going to do the 22 to 23 million. I think they're not going to do that next year. I think they'll go to about 12 to 15 million. It's like, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for some of these athletic departments to do the whole spend all the way to the cap.
Right.
And now you know if you bring in a new coaching staff, you have to pay Neil Brown's
$9 million.
Yeah, and then you got his staff that you're going to probably pay another $1 or $2 or not. It's just
right.
So Neil Brown. I think the athletic directors are going to be looking for reasons to keep their head coach at least this first year in the transition. But we'll see.
I think that's a really interesting. We might have to put something together about that, Moen, because it is $22 million is a lot for one. To tell a school they can spend up to $22 million outside of NIL, right? NIL is its own separate deal. I don't know. Maybe even at BYU, they've cautioned, you know, they might not go to the max. I bet you there's only. I originally thought it might be 50 schools that go to the max. The more I think about it, I think it's going to be much less than that.
Yeah, that's what this West Virginia writer said. His sources were telling him not everybody in the Big Ten will go max. Maybe
right.
You know, Minnesota. You know, I don't know. I mean, no one has come out and said they absolutely will, and so I don't know. But anyways, I think it's going to keep some of these head coaches along for another year. I do think I said on our live show today, I think the first job that comes open officially for where there's a spot open for next year head coaching vacancy, I think is going to come from North Carolina.
Oh, you think he's going to retire?
I think so. I think in a couple of weeks,
okay.
I think something's going to be said, but I don't know for sure. Kind of heard some steam on it, so. But I don't know. I think, you know, coaching carousel is going to be a short ride this year, I think. We'll see what happens.
Do you have any idea? And I don't know. This is a blind question. If you don't know, just say you don't know. But do you, at this time last year, hadn't there been a few coaches already let go? I can't think of one this year that's been let go.
No Power 4 conference head coach has been let go. Coordinators, offense and defense have been let go.
Yeah, Utah let go of
their head coaches have been let go.
Right.
Rice's head coach just been let go.
Okay.
I can't remember, Moen. I know it had happened before. Somebody lost their job early last year, but I can't tell you the name. But somebody did, right, Moen?
Yeah, I'm sure. I think the guy who replaced Leach at Mississippi State.
Yeah. Arnett.
Yeah, I think he may have got fired. It was either late.
I think he got a short hook. Yeah.
I honestly thought when App State beat North Carolina, Mac Brown was going to retire, just like he left Texas after BYU beat him by 45. I actually expected that to happen again at North Carolina. He stuck around an extra year, but he's got to be in his late 70s.
He's in his 80s.
Oh my hell, Mac! Come on, man. Bobby Bowden-esque. Is he trying to catch him or something?
What's crazy is if he leaves, which we probably will after this year, and let's say Kirby Smart in Georgia wins the national championship, then going into 2025, there will be only 2 current head coaches to ever win a national championship.
Right.
Dabo and Kirby. If one of those 2 should win it this year. If somebody else wins it, we'll still have the number 3 going into the next year because if Max Brown leaves. So
right.
That's crazy, isn't it?
I think it is crazy.
Only 3 current head coaches that have won a national championship at the highest level.
That is really crazy. Well, that was the picks. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Right now, week 9 results from last week. I'm over 500. That's all I care about. I was way behind when I got sick. Again, Moen, you're so underwater. What are you doing? Becky and Rock are leading.
Greg has the data to prove he's a cooler. I've got the bank. I've got the bank account to prove that I'm the real cooler. So
okay, all right. Steve,
hey Moen, I'm 39-55. I think I might have a higher winning percentage than you against the spread. Right?
Wow.
You might.
39-55,
32-40. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe not.
I'm not a math guy.
We're close.
All I know is Rock is thumping all of us. That's all I know. I can't catch him. I pick against him every week, and I can't seem to get ahead. So
Yeah.
he went 5-3, pulled another game away from me this week. Steve Ohio, Florida tells us Matt Brown is 73 years old. So
Okay.
he
Well, he
looks
just looks
older
like
than
he's
he
in
is.
his 80s.
He does. He definitely does. So we're going to be having rankings right now. His name's Peyton. I just asked him. I'm not sure. I think I heard that before, but I couldn't remember. He's going to be joining us in about 10 minutes. So we're going to go through those rankings. That is a really cool exercise, everybody. He's going to tell us how that works and how AI is really building in to the college football playoff now. Yeah, you have the eye test, which I hate. The subjective crap is, gosh, college football's until they did try that with the bowl championship series with all numbers, and that didn't work out so well either. I don't know what the fix is with the eye test and everything, but that's what he's going to come on and explain. His name's Peyton, and it's rankings right now. He's going to be on with us in a minute. Let's get through some comments since we've got a few minutes here. Joe Z says, rock the boiler. He is cooking. There is no doubt about that. Opie, sorry, let me get to the bottom. We're going to work backwards. Illini Ted, a valuable member. Good to have you here. Says Northwestern fired Fitzgerald right before 2023. Oh, I forgot about the scandal. That's right. Northwestern's scandal there. Anyway, so that was last year.
Yeah.
OPD Don says another member, valuable member. Thank you, Opie. LSU reclaimed the membership. LSU, Tennessee, Georgia, and A&M. If they lose to the Longhorns, can finish 7-1 in the SEC. Does Texas win out?
No.
That's a rough go.
I like I said, I think A&M beats Texas.
Yeah, I mean, talking about teams that are slipping, the Longhorns are slipping right now.
Yeah,
Matt didn't play very good against parts of that game against Georgia, and then Vanderbilt. That's another team that's going to have to show us something here. Then who they play this? They don't play this week, right?
Texas is off, I think.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Mullen would have put him in the picks. Because that's what he does. He picks Texas. Daniel Gygax, again, member and valuable contributor, says, I hate Pitt, so I can't say anything nice about them. Yes, I am biased Mountaineer. West Virginia losing that game, I actually thought Neil Brown might get fired after that game, honestly. They lost to Penn State. I don't know.
They were up. They were up.
Yeah, they were up in.
About 4 minutes left, and they couldn't tackle Eli Holstein, who's not really quick of feet. It's just Eli Holstein has kept bouncing off of guys, and he in the Mountaineer game's not the only game that he has done that in. He's just, I don't know. The guy looks awful for most of the game, but then when they really need it, he makes the plays. So.
We'll have to see, I guess.
And Narduzzi, the head coach of Pittsburgh, came out publicly and said, we're going to make sure we pay him enough to keep him. I mean,
he said that?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
my goodness.
We're in NIL, we're going to make sure that we have the resources to keep him. So I wonder if we're going to hear more. Like Narduzzi does have a kind of a big mouth on him, but I wonder if we're going to hear head coaches speak outwardly about that kind of stuff now.
You would never hear anything like that from Kalani Sitake. That would never, ever come out. I don't. Cam Rising made $2.5 million. Was it? Let's see, almost $3 million in 2 years at Utah and played 3 games. Sorry, 2 games, 3 quarters, like 3 quarters. Hey. There's the epitome of good NIL money, which Ohio State normally pays their top player, and they usually play really well. And then there's what happened with Cam Rising is the opposite end of the spectrum. I mean, I don't know. There's actually people talking about bringing Cam back next year. Could you imagine a 3rd year of him? Wouldn't that just kill their recruiting?
Boy, Bombers getting hate week started real early for this.
I am.
Utah game.
I just don't understand this NIL stuff. You pay a guy to play 3 games in 2 years.
Maybe they're looking at it more like we're paying him for what he has done for the program. And they did win 2 conference championships.
And didn't win a Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I know. But better than they've ever,
Well,
the
they
peak
won the
of
Mountain
their,
West a couple times, and that was great.
yeah.
A down Pac-12.
I mean, Cam Rising overall, before he got all nicked up and injured, he was a good quarterback. But there are wasting a lot of NIL money now. So I don't know if they want to go to the well once again. That'd be kind of.
Yeah, I don't know. Mo, are you watching comments? Because I'm not seeing if I'm getting any Utah. There's nobody, no Utah.
There's
fans
nobody that's
watching
going to
right now.
defend Utah in here. Man.
It doesn't matter. It was more about the NIL discussion.
Yeah.
Cam is one of those exemplars
Mhm.
that you put out there. You say you do not want this to happen. And what's
Mhm.
remarkable is it was actually Kyle Whittingham who came out this week and said it's up to Cam whether he wants to come back.
Yeah.
It's not the program saying it's been real. You'll always be a Utah man. We're moving on. We got a quarterback we could lose to the transfer portal if we bring you back. Our recruiting could go down because now you already built 2 seasons around the guy. And I'm telling you right now, when he went down, it ripped the heart out of this team.
Yep.
They lost 4 games only because Cam Rising just wasn't on the field. He wouldn't even have to play it down. I mean, he wouldn't have to touch the ball. He just had to be there.
And now that we're going into the salary cap thing,
Yeah.
head coaches and whatever the general manager, whatever that title is going to be for your athletic department,
Right.
are going to be making decisions. And you're going to have some guys who have been injured, but they have, they were high recruited guy out of high school,
Right.
But now you don't know. You're going to pay him. You're not going to pay him.
Right.
Yes. And then you're going to pay them, and then they go down the second game of the season. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't have the answer. Maybe Nathan or Moen or somebody in the chat. Are we going to know how much LJ Martin is getting paid for BYU in the cap?
No.
Are we going to know?
Well, you talking about from the school?
Yeah, from the school.
I think those are going to.
Is that going to be transparent?
I think it will have to be.
I don't know. Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State. Are we going to know if he's getting paid $2.5 million or $1.5 million from the Buckeyes $23 million cap?
Well,
Are we going to know that?
Actually, I'm going back on my statement. By the way, Peyton can't join us till the bottom of the hour, so we're going to have a little bit of time to talk about this. I think this NIL discussion is really important because I think what you just said is exactly right. You got, let's say, Cam, right? I'm going to continue to use him because that's the one I know most about, and it's numbers that we pretty much have published. He did win 2 conference championships, tough as nails, right? Yeah. I'm not saying a word against his athletic ability or what he's done for Utah, but the minute he goes on the DL and then Kyle Whittingham doesn't tell you until the 5th or 6th week that he's not going to even play the entire season because he had surgery in the offseason. Yeah. And you have boosters that gave him money to sit on the bench. What does that do to the rest of the team? Now you go to the next season, you play 3 games, you go out, and he's sitting on the bench, and he's making another $1.5 million.
Okay, so in this world, as a Utah fan, and we're just going to keep using Cam Rising as an example. We got.
I just don't know if I knew somebody else, I'd use him.
We got guys all over the, whatever. As a fan, now let's, Cam Rising doesn't play for 5 weeks. You don't hear about it, blah, blah, blah. Every week you think maybe he's going to play. That's the boosters' money that's going down the drain.
Right.
But if it happens now going in next year and your athletic department is paying him directly now $2 million, and it's $2 million out of the, let's say you're spending $12 million out of the $23 million on your football program. So let's say you got $12 million as a fan, and you're paying Cam Rising $2 million, let's say, and he can't get off the bench. Now the fans are like, now they're blaming the head coach and the general manager.
Right.
Before, it's just the boosters' money.
Yes.
But this is our money.
That's true.
This is our. We've only got so much of this in our cap, and now we just blew it on a guy who's got noodles for a knee, whatever it is. I mean, that's where the fans are really gonna be like, just even more emotionally connected to their team and what happens.
Well, you've seen Utes' reaction, right?
Huh?
You saw Utes' reaction last year.
Yeah.
And then this year.
Yeah.
That's emotion, right? That's real.
Yeah.
And most of what I'm doing is parroting what he said. I wish he was here tonight to express it himself, but it is frustrating, and yet he can do no wrong. However, Ute also said it's been real. We need to turn the page, right? We have a team to build around, not just one guy.
Yeah.
When you build your season, and this would go for anybody, high school, college, little league. If you build your season around one player, you're making a huge mistake. That's what happened at Utah this year. It's just incredible. Anyway, you want to say anything, Moen? It's been
I just want to bring this up here. The public schools will have to release those numbers due to freedom of information requests. No, they won't.
Well, and I was also going to say BYU is a private institution, so maybe they don't have to.
They can claim it's proprietary information,
right?
Which could be damaging if their competitors know it, and that is a valid excuse to keep it away from a FOIA request. So, I can tell you, at least in Ohio, I have filed Freedom of Information Act requests.
Have you really?
Yes, and if they claim it's proprietary, there's nothing you can do about it. They don't have to reveal it.
That's awesome to know. So, yeah, it's an emerging thing. House also changes things a little bit if that ever gets implemented. I don't think it will, but Ryan Willie, $5 super chat. Again, so OG member. Wisconsin needs to get rid of Longo. He isn't developing QBs. Next year's schedule is tougher than this year. I claim ignorance. Who is Longo, please? You guys tell me.
He's the OC at Wisconsin.
Okay, and
I think Braden Locke is. I mean, Ryan Willie doesn't like it when I say positive things about the Badgers because nobody likes when I say positive things. But I think Braden Locke has done okay for a first-year starter. He wasn't supposed to be QB1. The QB1, Tyler Van Dyke, got injured second quarter of the season. So I think he's done okay. What Wisconsin doesn't have is they don't have they got Pauline, the wide receiver, who's been nicked. They don't have a lot of juice with their offensive weapons, and that's what's hurt them this year. I like Tawi Walker, the running back. He got bottled up lately here, but he's pretty good. I think Braden Locke's been developed okay. I don't know what their plans are for next year. I don't know if Moen knows what Badgers' plans are for next year, but if Braden Locke's going to be their guy, they're going to try to do something else, or.
Well, that's going to be up to their boosters whether they want to bring it. Tyler Van Dyke is still there as well.
Yeah.
I think he still has a year of eligibility left.
Yep.
So,
he's been there a long time, actually. I
think this was his first year.
He came from Miami.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where where I recognize his name. Okay, I just had the wrong school.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm gonna get so many comments. You guys are awesome. By the way, we're sort of doing things mixed up because we got a guest at the end of the show. So right now we're doing the Q&A. I'm not gonna do it on Twitter or anything. But if you guys want your comments to be marked or whatever, please continue to put them in there. They're free. We try to get to as many as we can. We do defer to those super chats, as everybody's seen. But boy, we sure enjoy the conversation. And I tell you right now, we have the smartest viewers on this show and on Greg Pflugar's Peek Around the Corner. And we're very glad to have him here as a special guest tonight. Thank you, Greg, for spending the time and taking some heat off of me and Moen.
You got it. I appreciate you guys letting me on.
Anytime. Stormy Cyclone says, college football, what a mess. Some structure is needed. I mean, that you could have said that 50 years ago.
I
And it would have
agree.
been current.
I agree. And the Big Ten and the SEC are ready to take that man
Oh, Moen,
and
stop
lead
it.
college football.
Just stop it. Stop it. You went from a non-Super League guy to I am Super League.
There you go.
Where's your jersey? Where's your hat that says I now believe in Super League? Because you used to be against it the most.
Listen, the SEC and the Big Ten scheduling agreement is going to radically change the face of college football. It's coming.
Or it could be overrated.
Well,
I
they're
tell
going
you
to pay
what, if
for
the
it.
ACC and the Big 12 go in and win some playoff games, maybe get to some championship games, that could change the calculus.
Yeah, well, if the ACC does it, it's going to be with teams that get poached by the Big Ten and SEC.
Okay, so we're not doing realignment tonight. We know the ACC is in real trouble. We know that. Yeah, they lose their brands, obviously. Anyways, we're not going to do realignment tonight. All three of us love that. We're not going to do it tonight. Thank you, Stormy.
What is the school? What is the school in the Big 12, ACC, G5, independent that has the best chance right now as we sit here November 1st? This is an unfair question. It's the only questions I like to ask. What is the school that has the best chance of winning a playoff football game?
Notre Dame.
BYU? Who?
I think BYU could win a game this year.
Yeah.
I think it's Notre Dame.
Notre Dame?
Notre Dame would be the default. They're probably going to get the 5 unless Georgia gets it and doesn't get the 1. If they win out, I mean, they have to win out. But
now BYU, if they get that 4th spot, or it's probably going to be hard to get the 3rd spot, but they could.
Yeah, BYU's defense is for real.
Yep.
Yep. Jay Hill is going to be a head coach. I hope not next year, but probably. And I know most people haven't seen BYU play, but they're very, very good.
They're very good. Let's say it's BYU versus the 11th. No, wait.
Somebody would be the 5
seed.
Yeah, they play Georgia probably.
Yeah.
However, say it's not Georgia. Say it's Tennessee. I think they beat a Tennessee. I think they could beat some of these other teams. Georgia's like,
Yeah. Yeah, interesting.
Does Texas win the SEC? Who wins the SEC?
Georgia.
So Georgia's the 1 or the
Probably.
2 if Oregon gets the 1.
So maybe it's Penn State or Oregon or Ohio State for that 5th spot.
Oh, it's not going to be Oregon. Oregon's winning the Big Ten.
Well, I mean, if they lose the Big Ten championship game.
That's true. You're right. It is the championship. I'm sorry.
I apologize. Right. So maybe one of those 3 are the 5th seed.
I think they can beat Penn State today. I think they could beat Penn State.
Well, I know the Gophers are. So
there we go.
November 16th.
That's all that matters.
That's all I know.
All right.
Don't ask me how, but I'm just.
All right. Let's get some more comments. Clint Moses says, I would choose to make it public. Good for future recruits to see. I just think college football is such a muddle. I agree with Moen. You might find those figures out and they might leak, but I don't think they're going to be part of some yearly declaration. I'm going back on what I said earlier, but yeah,
it's never been really answered though. Like it's never been.
Yeah.
It's you guys are probably right. We probably won't see it, but we see it everywhere else in sports, right? And college football supposedly is becoming more and more professional. And I mean, we know who makes what in the NFL, who makes what in the NBA, who makes what in MLB. We might know who that backup left tackle of the Buckeyes makes next year. Probably going to make a lot more than other backup left tackles because they're probably going to want a backup left tackle.
Right.
Right, Moen?
No.
Ready for tomorrow? Let's go.
Because Justin Fry is our offensive line coach, Greg, and he can't recruit offensive linemen. Fire Justin Fry.
So Ryan Day loses to Penn State. Ryan Day loses to Michigan. Does he get fired?
He's fired.
Okay.
Wait, but if he loses to Penn State, beats Michigan, goes to the
He'll
playoff,
keep his job. He'll keep his job.
Okay. And what if they lose? What if they lose to BYU? 5th? No. Wait a second. 10-2 Ohio State will probably be playing at home.
Yeah, they'll have a home playoff game that first round.
Against Texas A&M.
Boise State.
No.
Boise State's going to be 11 or 12.
But I'm saying the Buckeyes lose to Penn State, so they're 10. I don't think the Buckeyes get the 5th seed then, so 6th or 7th. Let's say it's Ohio State 7th seed versus Texas A&M 10th seed.
Ooh,
it's at
that's
the
a matchup I'd watch.
And the Buckeyes lose that game. Then is he fired?
Ooh.
I think if he wins against Michigan this season, I think that's going to give him a lot of leverage.
Okay.
I think people are going to take down the stool and take the rope off the gallows for this year. But if he loses to Michigan, he's going to be fired.
He just look, Ohio State's loaded every year. Every year they're the top of the list. Them in Georgia, right? I mean, Alabama.
They're going to play good. They're going to play good tomorrow, guys.
They have to start beating down on some of these teams.
I hear you, Nate, but you're acting like they go in there and just completely lay eggs. They lost to Georgia by 1 point in a semifinal.
They snapped that field goal.
Right. If he'd made the field goal, Ohio State would have a national champion.
They'd be the national champions.
I guess I just look to Ohio State possibly win every year. So I'm sort of putting you guys at the.
They're going to play good tomorrow.
Yeah, I hope so. But listen, Ryan Day, he has to get rid of the Michigan issue. If he can't do it this year, he is gone.
Yeah. Well, that would be 3 in a row, right?
That'd be 4 in a row.
4 in a row, and the previous coach, what was his
Urban Meyer,
or not before Urban,
Jim Tressel.
Yeah, Tressel left. Wasn't there one in between? Who was before Tressel?
Luke Fickell. Luke Fickell was an interim head coach at Ohio State.
Oh, yeah, that's not who I'm thinking of. It was an older guy. He lost.
You're thinking of John Cooper.
Yeah, Cooper. There we go. He couldn't beat Michigan. Yeah.
Well, that was when E. Gordon Gee was our president, and thank God we gave that problem to West Virginia.
Well, getting Urban Meyer is the best decision you ever made. Ryan Willie, $2 super chat. Oregon smokes Gophers by 50.
What that tells me, Eva Badger, Ryan Willie, what that tells me is you're picking Oregon to beat the Gophers in the Big Ten championship game. Because that's the only way they can play each other. And the Gophers are still mathematically alive.
I love it.
However, unfortunately, the Gophers next year play at Oregon.
Oops.
At Ohio State.
Oops.
At Iowa.
Oops.
Oh,
oh wow.
With a redshirt freshman quarterback.
They don't travel to Washington too, do they? That would be a murderer's row.
No.
Okay. Then that's okay. Steve Moser, another member. Thanks for being here, Steve. It's been a minute since I've seen you. Good to have you. Oh man, if you watch some of those videos of his predictions from late August, early September, he would cringe so hard. I don't think he will. He's very proud of his predictions. I don't think that would. He knows what he knows. He's not afraid of anything he said. Just like none of us are. We always say stuff that's wrong. Who cares? Replica, a longtime member. Thank you very much, Replica. Good to see you. The revenue share figures may be public, but I'd imagine the NIL numbers will remain private. Well, they're private already, especially since schools are paying certain players to not play at rival schools. So you're basically counter programming. You're paying somebody to be on your roster, but just so they're not on another team. Is there enough money in there to do that? That would surprise me.
I would love to know if we're gonna see it in not only how much money, but if there's gonna be like a 1, 2, 3 year contract with these players.
I think contracts, performance based.
I mean, Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, just a couple articles ago, he mentioned that possibility. So, and I understand why we would all think it wouldn't be transparent. I'm not talking about the NIL with the collective.
Right.
I'm talking about the money.
22 million or whatever.
Yeah. I understand why we would all think that's probably not going to be transparent. But I wonder.
This is the one exception I could say where they might be able to enable it by getting around the private school issue, is making it a requirement that it's reported to the conference. Because BYU have subverted some of their rights to the conference, right? So the only schools that would really be outside of that would be independents. So Notre Dame would be the only one that, well, they would be out of the window.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the only way I could think that would happen. Just to show that we're totally even about claiming who's not good with NIL money. KJ Jefferson, that was a disaster at UCF. Emory Jones at Cincinnati, I don't know much about him. Two of the worst NIL QB deals ever. He certainly knows Cincinnati.
Yeah. Emory Jones had a good first game last year, and then he went downhill quick after that.
Mo, you want to add anything to that?
Cincinnati made the wrong coaching hire with Satterfield. I don't think you could put any quarterback in there.
Sorsby's doing okay.
So
Sorsby's doing okay.
Does he keep his job this year? He's won. He's only lost to who? He lost to just last week.
I think.
Oh no, they beat. Sorry, Cincinnati beat Arizona State last week, right? Was that 2 weeks
No, they
ago?
lost. Cincinnati lost to
ASU.
No.
I thought Cincinnati beat ASU.
No, Cincinnati lost to Colorado late night.
That's right.
But no, Cincinnati's done well. I think they're a win away from Satterfield probably keeping his job.
Okay.
I think he'll probably keep his job. I think they've done pretty good. They're going to have a little momentum going into next year, I think.
Need to get a bowl game.
I think it's going to depend on what happens at Ohio State. If Ryan Day gets fired and some of those assistants are available, Cincinnati's going to move quick to take one of those assistants.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
How far is Cincinnati from Ohio State Stadium or campus?
It's less than 2 hours.
Yeah, that's a cup of coffee anymore. Okay. That's interesting. Becky Go Huskies again says Utah needed Washington, Oregon to be down to win. I would say Oregon, Washington, and USC. USC had the wrong coach, still has the wrong coach, and Washington, Oregon wasn't what it is now. Oregon right now is the closest you can get to a super team in college football. Oregon's defense is
They're good.
They're the real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clint Moses, Utes 5 years without bowl win. Yeah. No more Ute stuff. I know I'm gonna catch flack for this for the next week from people, but let's go. You
better win. You guys better win that game, Bob.
We're gonna win. We're gonna win. I'm gonna will it. As long as Greg doesn't pick them, I'm okay. I was so worried when you picked him against UCF. I was like, no, don't do that, Greg. Stop it.
Yeah. What do we have a time of day of that game yet?
Yeah, it's the late game. It's 8:30.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows, BYU's like 25-3 in the last 6 years in games after 6 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't matter where they play at night.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see here. Tony Lawson, good to see you, Tony. Another representative for the Big Ten. I have OSU losing to Penn State, then losing again and not making the playoffs. That would be, then Ryan Day gets fired. He doesn't mention Michigan though.
Well, I assume he's saying they would lose to Penn State and then Indiana.
Okay.
In which case,
they don't make it to the championship game.
Even if he beats Michigan, he might get fired, especially with the money that's on the roster.
So a 9-3 Ohio State doesn't make the conference championship game. And Greg said it earlier in their show. We think that's a tough get.
I think
a three-loss team.
This year, I mean, maybe next year it'll be different.
Right.
I think this year is just.
It's weird this year.
Work out, right?
This year's
well,
really
it's
weird.
going to be dependent too on how Penn State, Indiana, and Oregon finish.
Yep.
That's true. I guess Oregon could slip. That's true.
Mean, you could be looking at 3 top 10 teams that Ohio State has lost to.
I mean, if Indiana goes to East Lansing this week, and it's being reported that Rourke is playing.
Yeah.
The Indiana team's legit, man. They're just legit. there's nothing fluky about what they're doing.
Is there any chance Michigan State gives them a run?
Sure, Michigan State beat Iowa. I mean, Indiana's a completely different type of team, but Aiden Childs, you really don't know what you're going to get from him week to week. The young kid and trying to figure it out. You don't know. I mean, what if Rourke hits that thumb early in the game against some helmet, and then Indiana has to play Tavon Jackson, the backup? I don't know. It's in East Lansing, Michigan State, Jonathan Smith. Michigan State played some decent football. I was kind of surprised they lost to Michigan, but they beat Iowa, gave Michigan a run. But with Rourke playing, that Indiana team, man, they know what they're doing on offense. Like Rourke knows where all the guys are going to be. The receivers are getting separation. That's Sarak, the receiver, the transfer from James Madison, Ellison, the running back. Man, they got guys on that team. They're going to score on you.
Do they play Ohio State or Oregon?
They play Ohio State and Michigan.
At Michigan?
I believe they get Michigan at home.
Okay.
They're on the road at Ohio State.
I think Ohio State. I don't know. We'll have to see how they play this weekend. I guess I'm going to reserve my pick on that. Nathan says, hi, guys. Good to see you, Nathan. Appreciate you. You're my namesake. I love seeing you on the show. Antoine Codes, ASU, represented in the house. They only beat ASU because Sam Levitt did not play. Oh, boy. Don't get me started on only because. That's Utah's whole last 2 years. Only because they would be national champions defending if Cam Rising was. I'm sorry, I can't turn it off. I apologize to everybody.
Listen,
I cannot turn off this Holy War stuff. I just can't. I can't turn it off.
Ohio State would be undefeated, except Kyle McCord did play.
There you go. It goes both ways.
It's nice to see Arizona State play pretty good football this year.
Sure.
When Sam Levitt is healthy and stuff, it's too bad that Scadaboo ain't coming back next year, but pretty fun with the Sun Devils playing pretty good football.
Yeah, Levitt going. Yeah, that was a big deal. Scadaboo's good.
Yeah,
but he can't win. I mean, that win against Utah, that's something I wanted to bring up, and it just. And I haven't done it in the past, or maybe I did for a short time, but I wanted you guys' opinion again. Cleo Johansson, by the way, is checking in saying MSU is okay against the run. I'm not sure if that's enough against Indiana, but that's good to know. Is tackling. I know they're trying to get the head out of the game, so everybody runs in to these running backs. But one thing that BYU does different than that's why they're good is they wrap up. They still use their arms to tackle. I can't tell you how many solo tackles they've got. Last year they couldn't tackle anybody. This year they have so many backfield solo tackles like sweep trips and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They use their arms all the time. What is the deal with this tackling where you just run into people and hope they fall down? Because that's why Scadaboo ran for what he did against Utah. It's what the Indiana running back has done in the past, just bounce off people. You mentioned the Pitt quarterback. I just don't understand it. Is there no in-between? Is there no way you can tackle with your arms without also worrying about your head?
I think the problem here lies in we still don't know what targeting is. The Ohio State guy got thrown out of the game last week for targeting. The Big Ten came back this week and said it was a bad call. There was no targeting.
Really? Wow, that's happened several times
again,
here. Yeah.
What is targeting? What isn't targeting?
Nobody.
Yeah, if you don't know, how can you? You're always going to be second guessing yourself when you go to make a tackle.
So the people who are announcing the games, they contradict each other each and every week. Sometimes it's the crown of the head hitting the neck or head area of a guy, but sometimes if you don't have to have, it can be just a glance off the head. I mean, it's not. There's no consistency. Sometimes you launch, sometimes you don't need a launch. I have no idea what a targeting is. No clue. There was a targeting call on Minnesota's some guy hit the Minnesota receiver last week on a targeting. And I'm like, that's targeting? I mean,
yeah.
Minnesota got the benefit, but it's like, I was watching Gopher fans were like, we've gotten guys getting our heads snapped that there's no targeting. That was a targeting. I think these guys are so confused when they're trying to tackle people. Mullen's right, man. I don't know what a targeting is. I don't know what a catch is. I've got no clue.
It's, how do I put it? I think it's all coaching. And the reason I say that is, again, BYU is the example. Last year, they were like 110 in total defense. This year, they're almost top 10. And what is that? What's the difference? It's not the players. You can't turn over 11 guys on defense.
I will put this out here. I would be very curious what the targeting rate is between each conference.
Yeah, that's a good,
because I think the Big Ten calls targeting way too often.
It's like 4 targetings a game.
Yeah,
it's outrageous.
That sounds extreme. Big 12 was like that last year. There used to be a targeting. Seriously, every 4 or 5 plays there was targeting.
You're probably right. It is coaching. It's coaching, and of course, the defensive players buying into it, and then there's leadership from your captains, and all that plays a part in it. It's everyone buys in. Everyone's buying in at BYU.
Yeah, it's something special. Ryan Willie again, $2 super chat says, "What's a catch, not a catch?" Yeah, we've talked about that too. Yeah, I don't know. There isn't an answer necessarily, but I do believe that is what you're seeing the difference in some of these performances in these teams is the way they're coached. On offense, on defense, coaching in college football has never been more important. We just talked about it for 15, 20 minutes. I think it makes all the difference. So
this is another one. What is a football move? Because
I don't know.
He made a football move. What is a football move? Because I've seen things where it's barely in his hands, and they say, "Well, that's a football move, and that's a fumble."
Right.
And then other times, it's he'll have the ball, tuck it, and tumble 3 yards, and they'll say, "Well, that's an incomplete pass."
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, these are great questions. We could do this forever. I appreciate even having the conversation. But these are important things. Over the season's going to end eventually. We'll be in the off season, have more time to go into some of this stuff. But I think there needs to be some research done on some of this stuff because I do think it makes a difference. What's the difference between? Well, I'm not going to do that. OPD Don checking in. He's telling us his condition. I didn't realize he had been hurt, so I apologize, OP. He says, yes, I have a torn hamstring 5 weeks ago, blurred vision, so blood sugar is just off the charts, but it will get better. Docs say just keep doing, and it will follow, just injuries. I'm sorry to hear that, OP. I didn't know that. I apologize. Moen, did you know that?
No, I didn't, but feel better, OP.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we appreciate you being here because you've been here all the time, OP, and we really appreciate that. Let's see here. So we're just a few minutes away from Peyton joining us, so I'm really looking forward to that. OP follows up with a $10 super chat. Thanks again, OP. Appreciate that. Well, it is the Big Ten, so it's elite targeting. Mafia Georgia Tech. All right. If you want to take a drink on Georgia Tech, that's fine. We haven't talked about Georgia Tech much this year. Wait for the offseason. We'll be talking Georgia Tech again.
That's an organic.
You can take it, of course. Let's see. AMAC says Bomber better hope BYU wins. I'm telling you right now, and I've been conservative all season. I've been to 2 games this season at home. I've seen them play at night, and I really will be surprised if they don't play well in Salt Lake City next weekend.
What's the spread? Have they came out with a
4.5?
4.5. Okay.
4.5, which means, and they're in Salt Lake City, so it's really 7.5 points.
Yep.
And I think this is one where Utah is on the ropes. They lost one of their top receivers. Their quarterback's out. They're not even sure who's going to be the starting quarterback, even though I think that's like a Kyle Whittingham psyop. He just doesn't, it's a fake him out. They don't want to prepare for one or the other. But again, their defense they're very good, but they haven't played like they have in the past. So yeah, anyway, that's how I feel about it. And I'll stand by it. If they lose, they lose, right? I'm no dummy. Jeff Sims, worst transfer quarterback last year for NIL money. I don't know anything about Jeff Sims. Do you guys?
Oh yeah.
Rascal.
Yeah.
Tell me who he was, where he is.
He transferred from Georgia Tech to Nebraska.
Okay.
And now he's with Arizona State. He was a turnover machine for Georgia Tech. Nebraska got him in the portal. I don't know how much they paid for him. I think they paid a lot. And he had serious issues last year, fumbling, interceptions. Tom Fornelli of CBS Sports, who does
right,
whatever that show's called, he has the oopsie daisy metrics.
Okay, I've never heard of that. Okay,
which is something with turnovers, something else for quarterbacks per how many plays they play, whatever.
Right.
And Jeff Sims is the all-time oopsie daisy leader in college football history. So yeah, he that's a good one from Nebraska Rascal. That Nebraska wasted a lot of money on him. But I don't think Nebraska's wasting a whole lot of money in Dylan Raiola. I think he's going to be a good one.
Yeah, we do too.
Next couple of years.
We completely agree. All right, I want to introduce Peyton. Do I have this right? Is it Soicher? Is that
Soicher?
Right?
Close enough.
Okay, Soicher. We'll go with that. Peyton, I'm glad to meet you in person. We've obviously been talking on Twitter for a while. Totally support your website. The rankings right now on Twitter. I want to introduce both Moen and Greg Pflugar. I'm sure have seen his shows.
Hi guys.
And kind of tell us what you do. Tell everybody what rankings right now is. I tried to tell everybody kind of what you did, but I don't think I did a probably good job. So
okay.
Why don't you tell everybody kind of what you do, and then if you want to show examples, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, great. Oh, so a couple of years ago, my dad went to Michigan State, so I kind of grew up like brainwashed into believing that anything in East Lansing is like the greatest thing ever. But so I was a couple of years ago in 2021, I was watching a game against Ohio State, Michigan State, Ohio State, week 12. So we were into the college football selection committee process. And I think it was Michigan State was ranked 7 and Ohio State was ranked 4. And at halftime, Ohio State was winning 49-0. And so I kind of was just sitting there being like, oh my God, this is just the worst beating I could possibly have ever imagined. This isn't anything that we wanted. We have no chance at being a top 4 ranked team at this point in with this loss. And so my wife, kind of poking fun at me, said, well, are they even going to be ranked in the top 25 anymore because this beating is so bad? And it kind of got me thinking, like, that's actually a really interesting question. I wonder if anyone is able to give me a real-time prediction on what the ranking is going to be now that we have this score and that this game is happening. So I went online and I didn't really see anything. I have a background in computer science and mathematics, and so I thought this might be an interesting little project to kind of put together and get a good feeling of, well, is this predictable? Meaning, if we know what the rankings are and we know what the scores of the games are going to be, are we able to accurately predict what the rankings are going to be of the AP top 25 up until this point in the year, and now starting with the college football selection committee? And so after a couple years of tweaking the algorithm and having it as kind of like this little side project, earlier this year, I was able to get it into a relatively accurate position to say, okay, this is actually really interesting. And now I created this whole website that gives us the ability to change the scores of different games and outcomes, and you can see how the rankings will be affected by that scenario. We also have, we're on Twitter and Reddit, and our website is up to date in real time, or I should say near real time. to where as the games are going on and as the scores are changing and evolving, you can go ahead and see how the rankings are going to change going into the next release of the AP poll or the college football selection committee. So that's kind of the idea of this, is to change the idea and the narrative around, okay, well, let's wait until Sunday to get our AP poll release, and let's wait until Tuesday to get our college football selection committee release. The plan is over the next few years to get this algorithm better and better with more data and understanding what was weak about the algorithm this year and what was good about the algorithm, to the point where you can now know you don't have to wait until the release of the poll. You will know immediately as the game is going on, oh my gosh, if they win this game, they're going to move up to 6. If they lose this game, they're going to move down to 16. I believe it enhances the college football experience. I think it adds another element to it. Same thing with we have a what if simulation tool that I can show you here in a second, where you can change those scores. So the last second field goal that just missed, what would have happened if it would have gone in? How would that have changed my team's ranking going into the year? Had that field goal gone in, or had we not fumbled the game, or if we won in overtime? It's just been a lot of fun. It just adds a new element to the college football discussion.
Now, I posted your Twitter. What is your website link? I just want to make sure everybody gets that.
It's www.rankingsrightnow.com.
Rankings right now.
Rankings right now.
That's a little bit different than rank right now, which is on
yes,
Twitter,
I know.
right?
I think for some weird reason, I don't know if it was just when I had signed up, but like rankings right now was unavailable, so I had to go with rank right now. Everywhere else, it's been rankings. Yeah,
we've all had that problem with something. I'm sure that's true. All right. So, have you been on StreamYard before? Do you know how to?
Yes.
All right. Go for it then. You can take over.
Great. Let me move around a couple screens. One second.
By the way, everybody, just so everybody knows, the Mafia team has been doing this all season, and everybody knows how Ute is into analytics. He loves this. It's something he is playing with every week.
I'm absolutely fascinated by listening to Peyton. Peyton, I got 2 quick questions.
Shoot.
One, how many times under your breath have you just said, geez, why did my wife ask me that question? Because that spurred on all this work and everything.
Up until the algorithm got like accurate. It was like, God, this is so stupid.
Now you're thanking her all the time. Second question, I'm going to have more. Second question is, do you think when you're doing this, are you thinking that there's a possibility of the selection committee, they have their own built-in algorithm rankings right now that maybe they're, maybe not, but
are they going to steal your idea? Is that what you're saying, Greg?
Well, maybe not quite. Well, maybe steal it, but also like.
No, I know the question you're asking. I would be excited if they said we were going to move to something like this. Now, because what's so unique about this, and I'm a analytics nerd, I'm a machine learning guy, so let me give you a quick step back. Typically with machine learning algorithms, whether you see it on a ChatGPT or someone trying to predict the weather, you typically have the full range of outputs, right? You know what's going on. In the United States, we have this weird selection committee that is unique to anywhere else in the world.
That's right. It's the only thing in the world, the only league in the entire world.
The NFL, NHL, you know what the magic number is at the end of the year. Who's going to make it in and who's not going to make it, and what the rankings are going to be. In football, in Europe, right, or soccer, they have all of their setups for points. If you win, you get this much. If you tie, if you lose, you know the structure. We don't know anything. We just have this group of people that decide, get around and huddle around, be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you don't know. So, when like I say this in the term of it drives me crazy that the Florida State example is the easiest example last year, right? If you would have said, hey, undefeated Florida State, they're a conference champ. They win most of their games by a large margin. Did they make the Final Four? No. Everyone at the beginning of the year would be like, explain that to me. And even their reasoning for when Florida State didn't make it in was they said, okay, I'm not going to we don't like this quarterback situation.
Like last year. Let's talk Florida State.
Right. Like it gets wild. So if they came out and said, we're changing our approach to this, and we can now give a point system for how we're going to rank this, it would change everything. These BS schedules at the beginning of the year where people are playing nobodies, you're going to get rid of it. There's going to be mathematicians trying to come up with the perfect schedule to say, if you do this, this is our best chance of winning with our conference schedule. That's going to get us into the top 12. We have to play bigger teams. Better matchups come up out of it. It would be really, really cool, in my opinion, if they said, we really love this idea and we're going to go ahead and use this kind of thing. My job as a fan is done. I would be happy. I would be thrilled with this situation.
One more comment.
You remove the subjectivity out of it, right? That's the bottom line.
One more comment, and I promise I'll shut up, Peyton and Nathan. This is, when you gave birth to this idea, it was incredibly fascinating. But now that is a 12-team playoff, right? You gave birth to this idea when we were living in the floor. Yeah. So now that we're at 12, this is even more.
It's more fun.
It's more fun. Yes. Okay.
Yes. More conversation.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So this is the strangest weekend or week, right? We don't know anything about this selection committee. So we have this algorithm that is based upon typically how they vote, starting from when they have their first releasing of the rankings all the way until the final selection committee rankings come out, right? Now so this weekend is a very weird prediction. You're going in saying, if you have no context of any rankings, specifically the AP poll, which we're all kind of tuned into right now, even if you like it or you don't like it, you're used to seeing it. You're comfortable with it, right? Notre Dame, I'm going to just have a little tease in right here for a second, but Notre Dame, for example, you have at 8, or we have at 8 right now. That seems right because they've been in that area this entire year. So this is what the predicted rankings would be if we had the AP poll as kind of a guidance and say, given the last AP poll, and let's say that's the truth, which I don't think anyone here would agree, here's what the next slate of games, which these are all of the week 10 games right here, and their predicted scores based off of Las Vegas right now. This is if Ohio State wins 24-22 against Penn State, Penn State would drop down to 5 in the rankings, and Ohio State would move up to 2 in the rankings. Right?
I love this.
So this is kind of what the deal is right here. So let me throw in a little curveball and a little wrinkle. What if we didn't use the AP poll at all? And we said, we're just going to go blind and use the same algorithm as it builds up to this week. What does it look like? So here is my development area. And let me make sure I don't have any. We're good to go here. Okay, great. So if this was the case, there's some bad predictions in here, right? This is an algorithm. It makes bad, bold cases. It has Notre Dame at 2, right? That to me, when I saw this for the first time, I threw my hands in the air and said, damn it, something's clearly wrong here. But you have Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Georgia, those are the right top 5 teams. I think everyone would agree here. So if Notre Dame is right here, and we go ahead and look at their schedule real quick, everyone loves to focus in on that Northern Illinois loss. People cannot get over it, right? They just cannot move on from that loss because it was one of the biggest moments of the year, right? It's impossible to forget it. if you get rid of this, right, and just say that was week 2 Notre Dame, right? Same thing with Florida State last year. They said current Florida State is not a top 4 team, right? They might have had a top 4 overall result, but not right now. They're not a top 4 team. Notre Dame is on a hot streak. They're winning big, and they're beating teams that they should, that are legit competition. Louisville, Georgia Tech was ranked for a little bit this year. Navy, they just absolutely decimated, right? They're going to beat Florida State big. Maybe not 2, but top 5 maybe. And I think that might be surprising to a lot of people, right? Now, the next thing that came up to my mind is what the hell is going on here with Alabama and Ole Miss, right? Same thing. Do I actually think that Alabama and Ole Miss will be 7-8? No, I don't think so. I think those are a little bit too high. The reason why Alabama's so high is because they just had they just pitched a shutout against Mizzou, right? Mizzou is ranked high because they've had a tough schedule. They've won a lot of those games, even if they looked ugly. They've been ranked high throughout most of the year. And what the algorithm doesn't know is Alabama beat Missouri, I think it was 34-0, but that wasn't a real 34-0. That wasn't Missouri's best squad, right? It's a backup quarterback. It doesn't know this context. So what's cool about this algorithm is each week the rankings come out and it readjusts and realigns itself so that the predictions become accurate every single week. And it's not just running down this rogue trail of what it thinks is right versus what in reality is actually going down. So like I said, this is a weird week, but I know BYU is always a hot contested subject. I keep getting mentioned by a Twitter account I will not name that's always asking questions about BYU. But according to the selection committee algorithm, they're at 11. So, and you have Indiana, Miami at 10, lower than a lot of people have them right now. So if you remember, if we go back to where they are, if you use the AP poll as kind of your guidance, they're sitting at 3, but not here. They're sitting at 10. And that's just because, they're not beating teams by very large margins. They've had weird comeback wins. It's so much that goes into every single week of exactly what should be what. But for this being the first year, I've been thrilled of what has actually gone on. And I think it's so much fun to play around with this and see different results and different scores. So real quick, I'll show you how it can kind of work. So at the very top, so let me actually, so this is actually the homepage. They go to the current rankings. You can go ahead and subscribe to the weekly analysis newsletter. I kind of go into deep dives and write it all out, but it gives you the top score. So anytime throughout Saturday, you can go to rankingsrightnow.com, and right when you go to the homepage, it will give you the actual predicted rankings in that moment. So it takes games that are the projected scores, the completed scores. So right here, it shows you in progress, Boise State's blowing out San Diego State early, right? So it shows you the games that are in progress, the games that are completed, the games that are scheduled, all these different types of things that are going on. And like I mentioned earlier, for the scores that you see right here, they're projected based off of what Vegas is saying right now is the spread. So these things change, and when they change, the rankings will change. And so we will tweet out and whatever the case is. But if you want more up-to-date real time, you can go right here. You can always select all teams if you want to see what's going on below the top 25. You can create a login, and it will give you the ability to select your favorite teams, and your favorite teams will pop up at the very top, make them a little bit easier for you to find. If you go to our What If simulation tool, you can go ahead and click on that. It's free for anyone that has a login. You select the season that you're interested in, the algorithm that you want to use. So if you want to use the selection committee or the AP top 25, you can look at different weeks, but it allows you to go into any single game throughout the year. So it's not only just the most recent. If you want to say, hey man, if we go back all the way to week 5, and let's say Georgia were to win this game against Alabama, how would the rankings have changed? It changes those rankings and projects it out all the way up until today. So you have weird situations where like South Carolina and LSU had that crazy game where South Carolina had like 2 pick sixes that got taken back, right? If we change that game and South Carolina beats LSU, when I've run that simulation, it now like kicks LSU out of the top 25 for a while, and South Carolina is a top 20 team for a couple of weeks, I think, until they lost to Alabama, maybe. So all fun simulations. So like, let's go back to the non-AP poll influenced algorithm. Let's go ahead and get out of the all teams and back into the top 25. Let's go to week 10, and let's go ahead and update this Penn State game to see what would happen. So if we change the score from Ohio State winning by 2 to Ohio State losing by 2.
Now be careful here, Peyton. You don't want Moen coming down on you.
I'm open to anything, right? But I think he actually might see what so it shows you your altered games to make sure that you know what games you've changed in your simulation. Let's go ahead and run the simulation, and it takes a second to run. It actually is much faster on the website, but this is a development environment. So in that case, Penn State goes up to number 1 if they beat Ohio State.
Wow.
Oregon 2, Notre Dame still at 3, Texas 4, Ohio State stays in the top 5, even with a loss. And that's mostly because they would have, according to this simulation, a 1-point loss against Oregon and a 2-point loss against Penn State, who are ranked 1 and 2. So I think we would all agree that, hey, they're still a deserving top 5 team. They've lost both those games on the road in very tough road environments. No one is saying that they shouldn't, they're not out of the top 10. According to how our algorithm, which is trained on historical voting data from these polls, says that if that was the case, Ohio State would still be number 5 going into the next.
Can I request a game?
Go for it.
Pittsburgh, SMU.
Yes.
What if No, I think the line is what, 6.5. What was the line?
7.5.
Right. So there's your 8.
Pittsburgh wins by
points
touchdown.
right there.
Can you make it Pittsburgh wins it by a touchdown?
Let's do. What do you want? Let's do 28-20, 28-21. How about that?
Yeah.
Confirm that.
You've got Pittsburgh 12 right now. No, you got SMU 12.
SMU at 12.
Pittsburgh 21. Okay.
So when this is the case, you see Pittsburgh up to 12, SMU down to 24.
Got it. Okay.
So let me get another question in. We have a ton of G5 fans, right?
Yeah.
Ohio or Oregon State, Washington State, San Diego State. So a lot of people, especially on the western part of the country, Tulane and Memphis as well. How does this represent those teams? Because necessarily the Power Four have so many natural advantages.
Great question.
How do you build in? Is there a security blanket for those schools, or how does that work?
There isn't let me start with, are you an SEC school, therefore we're going to give you more points type of thing going on under the hood here. So what it really is taking into account is like I mentioned, it will reset itself after each week for the rankings of the top 25, because that's all we know, right? Especially with the AP poll, you can go down to 26, 27, 28, right? You know the votes.
Right.
For the selection committee, they say, here's our top 25, and we're not telling you who 26 is. So we have a good idea based off of how the algorithm tunes itself to say, for example, if we go ahead, I'm just going to reset the scores and rerun the simulation to make sure we're all on the same page here. But we know roughly, 26, 27, all the way down. You can go all the way down to the very bottom at Kent State, Kennesaw State, the teams that have really struggled this year. But what we really do, especially for the playoff committee, is we have to give it a starting point. So we always give it the AP top 25 as the starting point. And then the algorithm projects itself out. And the only thing that it's really interested in is this a conference game? So it's not saying, is this the SEC conference game? Is it a conference game? Are you home, away, neutral? Points, home and away. And from the points, you get the spread, you get the points scored. So there's a difference between winning 14-7 and winning 49-42, right? You're still, it's a 7-point margin, but it's a completely different game. Those are the things that it's taking into account. And based off of that, we can get fairly accurate results of these predictions. And if we go real quick, I'll show you, because a lot of people always are saying like, how accurate are these things, man? Like, which I get it, totally fair. So we post all of our results every single week. I'm just gonna go to the dashboard real quick of our newsletter, and we show for example, the week 10 poll versus rankings right now. So this is how we're able to determine how close we are. So for example, we show how close the final predictions are, right?
Wow.
And so first year I've been thrilled, right? So that was last week for week 10. There was a week, maybe week 5, I want to say, where it was awesome. This was week 6.
I still think it's awesome, Peyton.
It's a lot of green, right? So
Wow.
That's the challenge to me. How close can we get this thing? And I don't say, well, the AP votes were close. I talk about it a little bit in the newsletter and discuss like exactly what's going on. Yeah. But, we're dead on for a lot of these things. Usually up through, on the AP poll, at least up through about 15, we're pretty damn close on where things are going. And so just knowing the contents of who's home, who's away, is it a neutral game, the rankings of the teams, how good they are, all these different types of things, we don't really need things like, well, who's in the SEC versus who's in the Big 12 versus all these different types of things. Throw it out the window. Mm-hmm. Just knowing where your ranking is, who you're playing, a lot of what this algorithm is based off of is who you played and when you played them. It makes a gigantic difference. If you play a team early in the year, it doesn't have nearly as big of an effect as later in the year because we know where you are now. All the frauds have gone away. Yeah. All the teams that were big hype at the beginning of the year. No one is saying right now, well, Oregon didn't look that great against Idaho, so I don't think they should be number 1. No one cares about that anymore.
Right.
We've moved past it. So, when a Penn State plays Ohio State, maybe at the beginning of the year, there's a big change in the rankings, right? Clemson played Georgia at the beginning of the year. They went from 15 to 25 after that loss, right? I think if Clemson were to play Oregon and have the same outcome, I don't think Clemson goes from 15 to 25. They might go from 15 to 18 or 19 or 20. So It all really depends. And then the last thing that I'll say, and if we go real quick on X, one of the fun things that we also do is we do 10,000 simulations of each of these teams, and we can see we randomize a lot of the scores. We go off the ESPN FPI index to say who's going to win and who not. So for SMU, for example, ESPN is giving them a 71% chance of winning this game. If we run 10,000 simulations of week 10 and randomize a lot of the scores, but 71% of the scores end in SMU winning, here were the projected, or here were the percentages of times they ended up in each ranking. And you have the green, which is if they win, here's the percentage of time that they ended in those scenarios. If they lose, here's the percentage of time. So, for example, SMU, if they win, they are most likely to end up at 17 and 18. If they lose, their most likely scenario is they end up at 23 in the rankings. So we do this each week. It's a trove of data. It's too much to completely ingest sometimes, but it's been fun, man. It's really cool. I know the things I want to work on in the off season and fix up and tune up a little bit, but the goal, as I mentioned from the very beginning, the goal of this is to enhance the college football experience and to add something new to the table. And I don't know of anything else that gives you this kind of flexibility to play around with this and see the potential of rankings. And people love to tweet at me for the first, up until now, from the getting to now, the rankings don't matter. Rankings don't matter. They love to complain about my rankings and say that the rankings don't matter. They matter. We all pay attention to them. It's a focal point of college football because we're always, we're always up to these people that are the experts. And it's great to know under the hood of maybe how they're actually reacting to things. There's my sales pitch of rankings right now. I'm finished.
Okay, Peyton. Now let's get serious here. Gophers, Illinois. Go to that game. Illinois is rated number 24.
Okay, let me go ahead and get out of all teams. Show the top 25.
I just want to know what my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers have to do to climb closer to Illinois. I see they're number 24. Okay.
Okay.
Illinois.
So for whatever reason, it's not okay. Maybe it's just because it's out. So if you don't see it, we can always go to all teams. You can collapse these things to make them a little bit easier. So let's right here,
Minnesota, Illinois. There you go. Now
what do you
Minnesota's favored by 2.
Yep.
Even though they're playing at Champaign.
Yep.
And if you confirm that, I've seen where you've got it where Illinois drops 4 spots, 24 to 28. But go ahead and hit that confirm anyways. I just want to see. So Illinois drops 4.
So let's see. Illinois down to 33 in the AP poll or in the non-influenced AP poll. Sorry. Let's go back to the current website, which is using that AP poll as kind of that baseline.
Yeah.
If I showed people that Notre Dame was number 2 with no context, they would lose their mind. So I'm easing people into this. So yes, right here you're saying Illinois dropping 4.
Now, can you see where Minnesota is after that 2-point victory?
Yes.
Would they be 38-48? Can we see what that is?
So let's go ahead and let's see who can find them first. So Minnesota,
46.
right here, 46, moving up 9 spots.
Okay. All right. So then let's just make one more adjustment to the score that I think it's going to be.
Do you want the AP influenced? Let's see where Minnesota sits over here. 44.
Okay.
They're right here.
Let's do the score that I think it's going to be.
Okay.
35-20 Minnesota.
35-20 Minnesota.
Wow.
And then I won't bother you anymore. I just want to see what happens.
Sure. So here's our updated algorithm. Just as a reminder, we had Illinois at 33, Minnesota at 44. So now we're expanding that margin of victory, right?
Yes,
so let's go ahead and run the simulation. Use it on the website. I promise you guys it's faster. So in this scenario, let's see. Oh, I have to go to all teams. Let's see. Minnesota up to 41.
Right.
There we
15
go. 35.
spots.
35.
Wow.
35.
There we go. Okay. 35-20.
Yeah,
right.
small tweaks make a difference here. So it's fun. And there's that striking range to break into the top 25.
Correct. All right. So one thing, thank you so much for coming on, Peyton, going through this with everybody. Oh, we've been long overdue. We need to do this with Wild Ute, right? Because he is probably your number one supporter. He's been great. He's on your side every week. He engages. He really cares. We'll have to have you back. But I think the one overriding question of every question anybody could ask you, in my opinion, it would be, where do you think this goes with the CFP in the next 4 weeks?
I mean, Notre Dame looks really, really poised to. They're not going to be a top 4 seed. They can't be, or a top 4 seed, right? Seed's the appropriate word for this, because of the rules. But they don't look like there's anyone in their way. The Army-Navy situation is strange. If you're thinking of a group of 5, right? Army fits into that group of 5 where they might fit in there. I don't know if you guys peeked at that. It wasn't the current selection committee algorithm, not using any AP poll, is not huge on Boise State. So
we saw that.
Army has a good, if they can hold on, and they have to play Notre Dame this year at the very end. If they can hold on to that, that's important. the biggest question to me is, what do you do with LSU, Alabama, those one loss, Texas, right? There's some strange things that can go on over there. So if you want to go into Big 12 situations, does CU make its way into a championship game?
Yeah.
I don't have too many answers. It's like we're in a really good spot. It's really exciting going into these last couple of weeks. The only thing that the algorithm doesn't have right now is conference championship games, just because of the, you can't like, there's so many of these different rules that are going in that I haven't programmed to say, well,
Right.
if it's this scenario and this scenario and this scenario, it goes to this team, right? So I go all the way up until the conference championship. Once those games are announced, they will be a part of the simulation and a part of the website. It's all good there. But man, it's like, I'm very, very curious on, Ohio State. The Ohio State Penn State game is enormous right now. Like, a lot of these teams are having like one or two major implication games that are going to make a lot of difference here coming in the final stretch.
And
you can see Moen's jaw muscles tighten up.
Well, I just want to put this out here, Peyton, because you mentioned it earlier, scheduling stronger opponents at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Sounds perfect for an SEC Big Ten scheduling agreement.
Just from a fan's perspective, like, it would just be better. It would just be more interesting to just, LSU played Nicholls State earlier this year. Like, you're just like, and with all due respect to Nicholls State, I don't know, like, that's not who they should be playing. Like, we all want better ball at the end of the day. So hopefully this can lead into the next direction if we can get a little bit more, a little bit tighter of an algorithm and a little bit more of a fan base. I think this could start to draw a legitimate conversation, which is all I really want this to be a part of.
Do you have a chat room in the site? And if you don't, are you planning to add one?
I don't have a chat room in the site. Where like there's discussions going on Reddit and Twitter. As a machine learning engineer with experience with chat rooms, those things can get just too many rules, too much.
you have to have moderators.
Too many people just not behaving themselves. I'd just rather not. Just want to focus on the rankings.
Sure.
What you do is absolutely fascinating. All it does is make me feel more and more obsolete every day. The machine learning and AI. I'm a project manager by trade, and this stuff scares me to death because the more stuff that they make automated, their jobs are going out the window, and it's really, really fascinating to me how this is working. So if there's any one last pitch you want to give to everybody, for one thing, we are very grateful for your time. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll do this again with you, but
I'd love to.
Over time, your equations will get better, right? The more data you get, the tighter this will become.
The tighter it becomes, I've learned lessons throughout the year of, the last couple of, when I've been building this algorithm, I've only been focusing on the college football selection committee. So I applied the same kind of concept to the AP poll, and there are just some holes that I see. I'm like, okay, I can fix that. I know how to make that more valuable. Like I said, it goes to the top 25, right, for the selection committee. I never even considered 26 through 31 for the AP poll. And then people saying, how could Vanderbilt not be the first one in? You have Memphis. Well, my algorithm doesn't care about after 25. And Vanderbilt happened to be 26, and Memphis didn't have any votes. Now they're getting votes. So it's a little bit ahead of the game, which is cool. But from a fan's perspective, the reputation of this entire thing is built off the accuracy of the algorithm. If the algorithm is not accurate, what's the point of any of this?
Right.
So really focusing on that, the more data is always better. There's a couple of like scenarios where Mizzou lost to Vandy in overtime this year, and the algorithm had them staying there, and everyone reamed me online saying, no way. Mizzou's going to drop a couple spots. They looked terrible, right? Well, if you had gone back in the data, since 2010, there was only like 4 scenarios in all of the rankings data that's happened where a team dropped by at least 4 spots after a win. So it's trying to make the algorithm, that's an outlier. It doesn't pay attention to that. That's just noise, right? But then it happens, and you want it to actually try to reflect that. So it's trying to elevate those types of things under the hood to say, pay more attention to this. These things can happen, but every year it will use the last seasons of data to make its correct its inferences, to make better predictions. That's the goal of this, is to try and make it as accurate as possible while still having an entertainment value to it as well.
Has BYU broken your calculation this year? That's my last question.
BYU has always been above the mark. The algorithm has yet to catch up to BYU. They're definitely flying higher, which was exciting to me coming onto this because I knew BYU was going to be a subject. That the selection committee has them quite high and higher than the AP does. And I think that would make a lot of people in Utah very happy to hear. Same thing with Indiana. Indiana is getting, like, people are buying into it, but the selection committee, according to our algorithm, is saying, yes, that's a legitimate team. That's a top 10 team, not a 11, 12, 13 team, which I think, which another reason why this is so cool and so much fun is a lot of these teams take pride in that ranking, especially a BYU or Indiana that hasn't had an enormous ranking in a long time. This is very, there's a difference between 9 and 13 to these fan bases, as you're well aware. So, that's the other fun thing is if it's kind of like gossip, right? If you're able to whisper to the BYU fan base, hey, they're going to be 8 after this week, it starts to stir it up. You start to get excited, and then you want to see the rankings and how it makes things more important. So my mom's side of the family are Fresno State fans. Like, if they're top 25, they are through the roof. It doesn't matter if they're 23 or 24. That's a badge of honor to them. So it's applicable to every single team in the country. It's not, for the top tier, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, right? 1, 2, or 3, who cares? It means something to a lot of these teams, which is hopefully another reason why this will continue to grow, because it becomes important to all of college football fans.
It's amazing stuff.
Thank you.
Absolutely amazing stuff. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. I need to do one super chat, and then we're going to go. We're way over time tonight. Stormy Cyclone.
Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you very much. We'll see you later.
I'm going to be on your site, man.
Yeah, we'll talk
around.
more.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Thank you, Greg.
See you later.
Thank you, guys.
All right, bye, Greg. Oh my gosh, Moen, this has been incredible tonight. I would say one of our best shows. Stormy Cyclone gives us a $5 super chat. I think this is the only one that was pending, right? Am I right? I think it's the only one. Great show, guys. Love the interaction. Always love you around, Stormy Cyclone. Thank you so much. That's the only super chat we have standing. Between Moen and I, we probably got 100 comments marked. We don't have the time to get to them tonight. It was kind of a special deal. I hope everybody appreciated the time that we spent with Greg. Certainly, we want to Flug Empire, peek around the corner. And then Peyton with rankings right now, who may be the smartest guy I've ever met. I don't even know. Machine learning and AI, that just scares me to death, Moen.
Yeah, that's a little frightening, but we need to talk to him if he can program things to pick winners. That would be
that gets scary, doesn't it? So he does. The tool does let you you can do the future stuff. So you could build in, say you get the number on Tuesday. The number's 4.5. You put that into his little calculation. It'll tell you whether that's more likely or less likely. That's what's scary. Las Vegas sees stuff like this, and I think is probably scared to death.
Yeah. Trust me, Las Vegas has already got this in place.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
I swear
they don't want you to have it.
Yeah. The amount of games that'll be 3.5 and the score will only be 3.
Right.
It's astounding.
I didn't catch the number. He said how many simulations go through for each one of those breakdowns?
I believe he said 10 or 20,000.
That's what I thought it was. It's some ridiculous number. And it just over and over, and then it spits out, this is what we think it'll be. That's incredible stuff. So thank you so much, Peyton. Thank you so much, Greg. Last word, Moen, for Ohio State.
Go Bucks, beat Penn State, OPD Don, Carry Go Knowles. Anybody else who's a part of our community is feeling unwell, wish you good health, wish you
Absolutely.
a speedy recovery.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me about Carrie. I hope she's doing well. A lot of stuff going on there. We very much care. It's been a fantastic show. Make sure to follow you doing a show Sunday night, Moen.
I will be doing a show Sunday night, and if Penn State wins, I will be debuting the Penn State hat on the Big Ten Mafia show.
There we go. I love it. Are you going to do a reaction show if Ohio State loses? Or not a show, but a recording, whatever.
Probably not.
Okay.
Uta's passionate. I get
He is
downright pissed. So
okay. Just so you know, I think people would like to see that. They'd like to
I'm
see
sure
you
they
vent.
would.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure they would.
They probably pay you to see you vent. That's my guess.
They would have to pay for a new computer and a new monitor and everything else. So.
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want that. Everybody, I hope you have a great weekend. BYU is going to win the off week. That's all I know. It's going to be a fantastic weekend of games. Boise State starting it off tonight. I put a question on Twitter. Is there any chance San Diego State has against Boise? No, Boise State's putting a beat down tonight.
Yeah.
They're trying to make a point. They were low on those rankings right now. Everybody saw it, and they see that crap. They know maybe they're behind. It's Army, right? Now Army's still the undefeated team. So
yeah,
we'll have to see. It'll be very interesting. We love and appreciate all our members. If you're not a member, consider becoming a member. Just click that cash icon at the bottom of the window down by the comment section. Hit that thing and consider becoming a member. We have the best content out. I would say us and Greg Pflugar, we're right there neck and neck. And we appreciate everybody being here tonight. Everybody stay out of trouble. We will wish Ute a good weekend. Hopefully his family's doing well. And next week will be Holy War Week. I'm just telling everybody and warning you, Ute and I are going to be going at it. It's going to be fierce, and it'll be a lot of fun. And I hope everybody appreciates it. Anything else, Moen, before we go?
No, thank you to everybody who left a super chat or became a member tonight. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate y'all. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you later. Peace out.